So what do you guys think? Let me put it up on the screen so we've got a big version of it to look at here. So real quick, I'll go ahead and read it. We've got this Family Circus cartoon. In case anybody didn't know, that little boy there in the Family Circus, his name is Billy. So Billy is saying to his mom, I wish they didn't turn on that seatbelt sign so much. Every time they do, it gets bumpy. What's the joke? Yes, ma'am.
The joke is that he thinks the seatbelt sign is what causes the plane to shake, but in reality, they put on the seatbelt sign because they know if they're doing seatbelt sign.
Absolutely, yes. So he thinks that when they turn the sign on, that's making the bumpy get ready to happen on the plane. And just as Nasiba said, that's not what's making the plane get bumpy. They know, based on the wind patterns and the airflow, that they're getting ready to experience some turbulence. And so they choose to put the seatbelt sign on. So he kind of has his cause and effect backwards here. Go ahead and turn to the very next page. It's page 49. Page 49 here. So I want you to keep that cartoon in mind as we're looking at this and reading through it. This first part up here is absolutely 100% true. I don't have years on it, but this is correct. Researchers have noticed that the number of golf courses increases each year, and the number of divorces increases each year. So the number of golf courses and the number of divorces in the United States are strongly correlated. Anybody know what that word correlated means? They're related to each other. There's some kind of relationship. Somebody earlier today said connected. So they're connected or they're related. There's some kind of relationship. Think for just a minute, though. You guys all have families, right? There's your close family, the family that you live with. Sometimes that would extend as far as to, like, you'd consider your grandparents close family. And then you have distant family, right? People that you're technically related to, but you might not even know their names. So the idea that there's a relationship doesn't mean it's super strong. So what researchers have noticed is that the number of golf courses and the number of divorces are strongly correlated, and both of these things have been increasing over the last several decades. If I had the data to show you, to prove that both of these really were going up, thank you. If I had hard numbers, I don't right now, but like I said, it is true, we could pull these numbers. Could we use that data to conclude that the increasing number of golf courses is causing the number of divorces to increase? Does that strike you as something that's probably true or probably not true? You said what? Probably not true. So I'm going to go ahead and write no here. Yep. There is a relationship here, but their question is specifically about this cause and effect relationship. A cause and effect relationship is a very close relationship. Just because two things are related doesn't mean they have a cause and effect relationship with each other. So no, I don't think there's a cause and effect going on here with this. And some of the things that I was hearing is that doesn't really seem to make sense. Do you guys have any thoughts or ideas about what we could do if we wanted to try to prove that this isn't a cause and effect relationship? Think about what you read yesterday in the Bellwork slides about the different types of studies. There's surveys. That's more of what this is. There's observational studies. And there's experiments. Yes? Hmm? Yeah. Only one of those three types of studies can show us a cause and effect relationship. Does anybody know which one it is? An experiment. The only way to show or know cause and effect is with an experiment. With an experiment, you have to have at least how many groups? At least 2 groups. And who decides who goes in which group? Is it the participants or is it the researcher? Researcher. So there's 2 groups, and the people themselves don't get to choose. And then they keep everything about those 2 groups the same, except for one difference between those 2, right? And that's how it establishes a cause and effect relationship. You're like, I'm going to make sure that everything about these 2 groups is as the same as I can possibly make it, except this group over here is going to do one thing differently, and this group over here will not. And that allows me to isolate and look, because what you want to make sure of is that just because you see a relationship between 2 things, sometimes the reason for that can be coming from something else. Like in this case, if I were to just ask you why you think the number of golf courses has been steadily increasing over the last several decades, let's forget anything about divorces. Why do you think that there are more golf courses now than there were 100 years ago? Yeah, there's more people. There's more people that know the game and want to play the game. What else is probably true about people in general versus 100 years ago? I'm guessing that as a big group, individuals have more free time and more money. 100 years ago, we didn't have dishwashers. There were washing machines, but they weren't as good as the ones we have now. We didn't have microwaves. Like, you had to spend a lot more time just doing the basic chores that it takes to stay alive. So you didn't have as much time for recreation. So I'm going to go ahead and record some of these things down here. We're going to be explaining what might account for this correlation. So for golf courses increasing, there's more people, there's more money, there's more free time. All right, so for just a minute, now I want to totally forget about golf courses, and I just want to focus on divorce. Because divorce has gone up over the last several decades. What do you think some of the reasons for the increase in divorce would be? Women are now more independent. Women have more power. Did you know a woman couldn't get her own credit card until the 70s? That's scarily not that long ago. So women have more independence now. Anything else that you think would contribute to more divorces overall?
More things to be stressed about.
More things to be stressed about. Anything else?
Yes, just in general, a
Different time period. Different thoughts about relationships. Some things that were acceptable to people 100 years ago no longer would be tolerated. Do you think any of the reasons that we listed for increase in golf courses overall might also be affecting an increase in the divorces? Not that the golf courses and divorces have anything cause and effect there, but is there anything off that list that you're like, yeah, that might help explain an increase in the divorce too? We have stress written down here. I'm looking up at the golf course stuff. We had more people, more money, more free time. Could any of those be possible contributing factors to more divorce? Yeah. When your population goes up, if you're just counting raw numbers, not percents, you would expect other things to go up as well, right? So more people, to me, says you're probably going to see more divorces happen. And I kind of feel like the women having more independence thing goes along a little bit with the more money. Like, women have their own money now. And so as a family group, a lot of times families are making higher incomes than back in the day. But it's not just from one person. So there's a little bit more freedom there. I think some of these things have some different relationships here. So you guys don't need to copy this next piece down. I'll be posting it and I'll leave it up the whole class period. When we talk about correlations, the technical definition of a correlation is just saying it's an observed relationship where two things are related. They don't have to make sense to you, but when I take that data and I look at it, whether in raw form or maybe as a graph, I see some type of relationship there. There's two types of correlation. We call them positive correlation and negative correlation. For two things to be positively correlated, as one variable increases, so does the other. Like as the temperature outside goes up, more people go and buy ice cream. So those would be positively correlated. Then there's another type of relationship. They're still related to each other, but it's called a negative correlation. So one way that we can think of this negative correlation is it's very predictable that as the temperature outside goes up, the sales of big, puffy winter coats goes down. And it's predictable. A causal relationship indicates that one event is the direct result of the other, like a cause and effect. Like if I were to come up here and pinch Edgar really hard, he's probably going to yell. That's a cause and effect. I did something and there was an immediate reaction because of my action. If two things have a causal relationship, you can write it as an if-then statement and it makes sense. If I come up and I pinch Edgar, then he's going to yell. Like, yep, that makes sense. If two things don't have a causal relationship between them, that doesn't mean they're not related, but if you write an if-then statement, you're like, no, that doesn't make sense here. So I want you guys to keep this in the back of your mind, and you're going to do an activity now. Around the room, I have different relationships posted, and I want you to decide whether you think these things actually have a relationship to one another. Is there a correlation? Do you think, if you think there's a relationship there, Is it a cause and effect relationship? Could you write an if-then sentence about it? If you think there's a relationship there, or if you don't, I want you to tell me if you think this is sometimes true, always true, or never true. And the last thing that I want you to do is you're looking at these. Is there any other factors that might be contributing to relationships that you might see there? Like we talked about with the Gulf and divorce, families overall have more money now. That means more time that you could spend golfing. It also means that you feel like you have more freedom to leave a bad relationship, even though these two things don't have a cause and effect. You guys are welcome to work in groups or partners as you move around the room. They're posted different places around the room. You're going to record your observations and your thoughts on this page. You are not turning this into me today. I want you to hang on to it so that we can have some more conversations about it later. You guys have the remainder of the class period to work on this idea. Okay?
We have out of the